My father is dying of cancer. I read before about someone recording and taking note of all the questions and answers as a keepsake and figured I'd do the same. He's not a well man. It's been a slow downhill slope since losing the last of his sight 16 years ago. Then diabetes, then heart attack, etc. I'm a 27-year-old male and the eldest of three. He survived one major operation, but it's spread and he's been given 6 months to 2 years to live. But obviously, with COVID-19 going on and him being in poor health in the first place, I don't expect him to make it that long. I live abroad, although not very far, and obviously, there's a possibility I won't get to see him in person again. To be honest, I'm just rambling here. I don't feel anything yet, nor did I when he told me. I just know either way I've got to be strong enough to look after Mom. And obviously, I don't want to ask him anything too harsh or upsetting to make things harder for him than they already are. So anyway, my questions so far are, what would you have asked your father if you could have before he died? Would you be willing to walk my girlfriend down the aisle? Is there anything you would have done differently? What can I do to best look after Mom? What do you consider your best qualities? What do you consider your worst qualities? What would you say to your grandchildren when they're older? What could I have done to have been a better son? Edit. Just to say thanks for all of the amazing responses. Guys, I'm trying to make a mega list and I'm not even halfway through yet. Story 1. Ask him what his most treasured memories of him with you and the family are. It might have some potential to be turned into a family tradition which can be passed down for generations. It might also be a good way of keeping his memory alive. Story 2. Only one of your bulleted questions I would cut from your list is worst qualities. Is there anything you would have done differently covers a lot of the same ground but isn't negatively phrased. He probably wouldn't like to think about his worst traits at this time. My grandfather, who pretty much was my dad, succumbed to Alzheimer's years ago, and I tried to learn as much as I could from him before he lost his faculties. It is a hard thing to do. Kudos for wanting to learn. It will keep his memory alive. Get some recordings of conversations if you can, just a casual phone recording or microcassette so your future family can get to hear his voice. Best of luck to you, man. Story 3. Learn about his history. He had a life before you were born. Ask about his childhood. Ask about his friends. Ask about stories about your family. If he was in the military, ask him about that. Story 4. Ask for voice recordings for when you forget his voice, and a picture of his face close enough to see details like eye color, as I seldom can remember my dad's, and most of his pictures are outside with sunglasses on. Story 5. My dad passed away from cancer about 15 years ago. I was about 16. Try to record audio of the conversation. That way you always have something to listen to of him. Tell him how much you love him. Story 6. Great post. I had many questions for my dad that I was going to get around to asking, but he died quickly and young, so good on you. You already have some good questions, but I always wanted to ask my dad, would you have done anything differently? Do you have any regrets? Did you love someone before Mom? Do I have any half-siblings anywhere? Might as well throw that in just in case. Good luck. Story 7. Wow. A thought-provoking question on this subreddit. I am impressed. I would expand on your, is there anything you would have done differently? Question. What do you wish you would have done sooner? What do you regret doing? Story 8. Definitely record him as much as you can. My recordings of my dad are some of my most prized possessions. I asked him tons of questions about his childhood and teenage years, fun stuff like what common family dinners were and what he spent his allowance money on, favorite memories, favorite things, songs, food, and places. No matter what, there will always be questions you wish you could ask. I thought I was at peace when my aunt asked if we said everything we wanted to say to him, asked him everything we wanted to ask. Boy, was I wrong. But I'm glad I tried. You have some great questions so far. I hope you find comfort later on in the answers you get. Story 9. Ask him if he has any secrets that he wants to divulge. Maybe some wrong he wants you to make right. Make sure that you know if he has any money hidden away somewhere. And ask if he has a list of people that he wants you to notify about his passing. Everyone knows people that other people know nothing about. And to that person, he will just disappear and they will never know. Story 10. I'm a 20-year-old male, and I lost my mom a couple of months ago. It's a long story, but in the weeks she spent sick in the hospital, she wasn't at her best memory-wise or anything. So, some of my biggest regrets are just not asking the simple things like favorite movies or music, and not taking a recording of her giving me a good message for after she's gone. I got something similar, and it means the world to me. Just ask her about her life and recall some of your fondest memories together. Story 11. If I had known my dad was going to die when he did, I would have asked him about when he was most proud of me. I would have asked him how he felt when he found out my mom was pregnant and how he felt when I was born. I would ask him to record himself reading a book for his grandchildren that he did not have yet. I would also have asked about all the paperwork and end-of-life stuff because that stress made it all so much worse. He has been gone 10 years now, and these are the things I still think about. I'm sorry for you going through this tough time. I wish you and your family can find peace and comfort. Story 12. I don't really know what you can ask, but one thing for sure, absolutely tell him that you love him. I did it with my dad, then 75, when he was in the intensive care unit, and I told him that he was a fighter. He survived a massive heart attack and had diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and that now he deserved to finally rest, and I was ready to let him go. I was also there for his last breath, and I don't regret it. Story 13. I would not, in my opinion, stress him with complicated questions such as doing things differently, if you could have been a better son or him a better father. Take time to just talk to him and really know him. Dads, being men, tend to be more closed than they should. This could be a time to open up and know his views about many things in life. I know I would like to have done this with my dad before he passed away. Story 14. My dad passed away when I was a young teenager. My mom and he divorced, and I went with her. As I grew older, I learned how awful of a person my mom actually was. I wish I had known more stories about my dad from my dad before he left me and didn't get to tell me. I was too young to know some of the crazy stories he told all my siblings. Just sit with him. Talk with him. I'd give anything to do this one last time. Story 15. Tell him you love him. My best friend's dad died, and he said that he just wishes he could tell his dad that he loves him again. I tell lots of men in my life I love them now, and I don't care what anyone says or thinks about that. Story 16. How can a man hate his own family for no reason at all? Other than that, I would have loved to learn how to be a man, like asking for and getting that cheesy dad advice like never be afraid to ask out the prettiest girl in the room, son type of thing. I never experienced that. Never learned how to shave my facial hair properly from my dad. Never had a shared interest or hobby because he had none, and when he had a hobby, he would never involve me or my siblings anyway. I think you can already guess I never really liked my dad. Story 17. Ask him about his childhood, his family history, favorite memories including memories of your family, the story of how he met mom and his first impression of her, when he knew he was in love with your mom, his favorite music and why, where he enjoyed taking you and activities he enjoyed with you and your siblings when you were young, his fears, if there is anything unsaid that he would like to say to anyone, any advice for you and your siblings when you become parents, places he liked to travel to and where he wants to travel if he could. Record as much as you can. Video, audio, pictures, writing, anything. If you haven't talked to him about religion or philosophy yet, that might be good, like what is a good, fulfilling, happy life in his view and such. Best of luck, and I hope you have a longer time left together and that he is not in pain. Story 18. I'm trying to picture myself asking these to my dad, but I can't for some reason. I feel like I'm intimidated by my dad. He's a really tough dude, and I feel like he would consider these questions soft. It makes me feel insecure, to be honest. Story 19. I don't think you should ask about his worst qualities or anything negative. Your job here is to give him peace. Talk about things that made him happy in his life, his accomplishments, things he's proud of, and so on. Story 20. My heart aches for you, truly. I've lost both my parents before I turned 30. As I've gotten older, I hit roadblocks, some major, some minor, and I really wish I would have asked my parents to teach me about the things they were passionate about. My father loved to cook. I never really had an interest in learning as a teenager because I was spoiled by the food he made. Now I stand in the kitchen and think, I wish I would have asked Dad how he cooked this or that. My mother loved makeup and worked for Avon for years. She was a very beautiful woman, and I wish I could tell her that. She always wanted to do my makeup and nails, but I was a tomboy as a teen and had no interest. As an adult, I've matured into a woman, and I really, really wish I would have asked my mother how to do makeup. She was so great at it. So I guess my suggestion would be to ask your father what his passions are and have him teach you. People love to discuss topics they enjoy, and sharing that with their child, I'm sure, is very special. Again, I wish you comfort in these times. Just know, after the storm, no matter how long, you will eventually find peace. Hang in there. Story 21. My dad is also dying of cancer. One thing I have done is told him the names I plan to name my children, if I ever have them. This gives me comfort knowing he won't be around, but he already knew of them before they were here, if it's meant to be. Another thing you can ask is if you have one movie or song you'd recommend to make sure your grandchildren see or hear when they are old enough. That way, your children could have something that reminds them of their grandfather, something they knew he enjoyed and wanted them to enjoy. If you don't plan to have kids, then the last one fits as well. Ask him for a list of his favorite movies or songs. You can go to them for comfort when you miss him and laugh, cry, or jam just as he did to the same. Story 22. Ask him to say a short personal message to each family member, making sure he ends with "I love you," name, or "I'm proud of you," name. Sometimes that's the most beautiful thing you can hear a passed-on loved one say. Story 23. I would have asked my dad for his happiest memory. I loved him more than anything, and my favorite times were hearing about his life. We chatted a lot, but I never asked for his favorite moment in life. Just cherish your time mostly. Take a few hours to just be together. You'll be so happy if you have that. Story 24. The one thing I think a lot of people forget to ask about is stories. Does he have any memories he wants to share with you? A first date with your mom? The first time he held you? A childhood memory? My dad likes to tell me stories of his escapades as a rebellious man. By that, I mean crime and fighting stories because that's the kind of young man he was. When I ask him directly, though, instead of it being inspired by something else, he likes to tell me stories I barely remember from when I was a child. The first time he took me fishing, the first time we watched a horror movie together, the first time he showed me his favorite movie, the first time he got to hold me, and almost didn't want to let my mom take me back. It means a lot to hear what stories he wants to tell me when asked to talk, because they tend to involve him and I spending time together. I never would have realized that until I asked. Story 25. I would ask him the little things like what he had for tea and what his favorite show is. I know this sounds crazy, but one thing I missed when I lost my grandparents is those little conversations. Story 26. Just make sure you have a good understanding of who he is as a person, his life story, the events and memories and mistakes that shaped him as a man, what his greatest lessons have been, what he's most proud of, what he wants to pass on. My dad committed suicide in December of 2018. We had a nearly non-existent relationship. I had been in therapy and was ready to try and build a bridge with him, but I never got the chance. At least you have time. Story 27. Tell me stories from your life. You may get to hear the delightful ramblings of the mischief he got up to at school, how he met your mom, or how he almost didn't, how you used to be a pain in the ass baby, or any number of things. You can't always know the right questions to ask. It is sometimes best to let others share. Story 28. Not what to ask, but what to tell. Tell him you love him. My dad died of cancer 6 years ago. We knew we had 3 years to mend our relationship. We had always had a difficult relationship, and it took him getting cancer for us to try and put things right. It was painful. A lot of frustrated silences, sitting in each other's company and struggling to make conversation. One day he, out of the blue, said, "I love you, son." Caught me by surprise. He'd never said that ever. It felt like there was something physically stopping me from saying it back, and all I could say was, "Thanks." It was not until I spoke at his funeral that I managed to say the actual words. But I regret not saying it in that moment. Tell him you love him. Tell him every day. Story 29. It's a tough conversation to have, but ask what his final resting wishes are. I never asked my father and still wish I did. We provided a beautiful service assuming it's what he would have wanted, but it would be nice to know for sure. Everything happens so fast upon passing that you kind of just wind up guessing at what to do. Even down to the poem on the mass card, it's a small comfort to know you did what they would have truly wanted without question. Story 30. I don't have any question suggestions, but as someone who lost their mother at a young age, I would highly recommend recording his voice. You don't know how much you'll miss hearing him speak. You'll have pictures and notes, but you'll want to hear him every now and then. Story 31. I asked my father what he thought the meaning of life is. He said he thought it was to surround yourself with as many friends and people who love you as possible. He also said bird watching, but let's keep that on the hush-hush, okay? Story 32. My fiancé told me that when his grandfather was in hospice, he asked if he wanted to tell him all of the things he felt he did wrong and needed to tell someone to be able to go without feeling like he died with no one really knowing him. He promised never to tell another person about it, and he never has. He said the relief it brought him to not have that extra burden to carry changed him, and he was able to find peace in his final days. It's a hard thing to take upon yourself because he, my guy, wasn't the same for a while, but he's still happy to be able to give his grandfather that peace. Story 33. Ask him what his life was like when you were little. You'll get a new perspective as an adult than you had as a child. He was your age or 10 years younger then. I loved finding out later the real reason we did certain things such as week-long camping because we didn't have a home. Story 34. I found a list of questions online and did a video interview with my mom before she passed away. The list was a good starting point because some of the topics are difficult to talk about and wouldn't naturally come to mind for me. They opened up some great conversations. I found it really therapeutic for both of us because it was a good chance to spend time together, and I learned quite a bit about her. I could tell that she enjoyed reminiscing about her life too.